In the spring of 1900, a group of Greek sponge divers were caught in a storm near the tiny island of Antikythera, in the strait between Crete and the Greek mainland. Sheltering near the island's cliffs, diver Elias Stadiatis descended to the seafloor and surfaced in a panic, claiming he had seen a pile of rotting corpses and horses. What he had actually found was a 2,000-year-old Roman-era shipwreck, scattered across the seabed at a depth of around 45 meters, its cargo of bronze and marble statues lying exactly as they had fallen when the ship sank sometime in the 1st century BCE. Over the following 2 years, the Greek government organized one of the first major underwater archaeological excavations in history, using primitive diving suits to recover statues, jewelry, glassware, and luxury goods, evidence that the ship had likely been transporting looted Greek treasures to Rome. Among the recovered items was an unremarkable-looking lump of corroded bronze and wood, barely larger than a shoebox, that sat in storage at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens for years, largely ignored. Then, in 1902, the lump cracked apart, revealing something nobody expected: a series of precisely cut bronze gears, with tiny inscriptions in ancient Greek, nestled inside what had clearly once been a wooden case. Archaeologists at the time had no idea what they were looking at. Nothing this mechanically sophisticated was supposed to exist in the ancient world. It would take more than half a century, and the invention of X-ray imaging, before anyone understood that they had found what is now called the world's first known analog computer. The breakthrough came in the 1970s, when British science historian Derek de Solla Price used X-ray and gamma-ray imaging to peer inside the heavily corroded fragments without damaging them. What he found stunned the scientific world. Hidden inside the device were at least 30 interlocking bronze gears. Later studies using advanced 3D X-ray tomography in the 2000s revealed the true total could be as many as 37, connected in a precise mechanical system unlike anything else known from antiquity. The device, now called the Antikythera Mechanism, was a hand-cranked machine designed to model the movements of the heavens. Turn the crank, and dials on the front and back of the device would track the position of the sun and moon against the zodiac, display the phase of the moon using a rotating black and silver ball, and predict solar and lunar eclipses years in advance using a sophisticated gear train that modeled the moon's irregular orbital speed, a level of astronomical accuracy that scientists did not believe the ancient Greeks possessed until this device proved otherwise. Inscriptions on the mechanism also referenced the Olympic Games and other Greek athletic festivals, suggesting it tracked the 4-year calendar cycle used to schedule them. Researchers now believe the device combined Babylonian eclipse prediction mathematics with Greek geometric astronomy into a single mechanical instrument, essentially a portable, hand-cranked planetarium capable of compressing decades of astronomical calculation into a single turn of a dial. The obvious question is also the hardest to answer: who built it? The level of precision engineering on display in the Antikythera Mechanism would not be matched again in the historical record for at least 1,000 years. Not until the development of complex astronomical clocks in medieval Europe. That gap is part of what makes the device so unsettling to historians. It implies either that the Antikythera Mechanism was a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, or that an entire tradition of similarly sophisticated Greek instruments once existed and has simply been lost to time, destroyed in wars, fires, and the general decay of 2,000 years. The leading theory points to the island of Rhodes, a major center of astronomy and mechanical engineering in the Hellenistic period, where the astronomer Hipparchus developed much of the lunar theory the device relies on. Cicero, writing in the 1st century BC, described a similar bronze device built by the polymath Archimedes, and some researchers have speculated about a connection to his workshop, though Archimedes died decades before the ship is believed to have sunk. Inscriptions on the mechanism itself use a calendar associated with Corinth and its colonies, including Syracuse, Archimedes' home city, adding intriguing circumstantial weight to the theory, though far from proof. What is clear is that the Antikythera Mechanism was not a crude prototype. The gear cutting is precise, the mathematics embedded in the tooth counts is sophisticated, and the design reflects generations of accumulated astronomical knowledge. Someone, or some workshop, had clearly built devices like this before. The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about history: our knowledge of the ancient world is built almost entirely on what happened to survive, not on what actually existed. For every bronze statue, scroll, or mechanical device that has come down to us intact, untold numbers were melted down for raw material, burned in libraries, lost in shipwrecks, or simply discarded as scrap once their owners died or their workshops closed. Bronze, in particular, was almost always recycled in antiquity, which may be exactly why only one Antikythera mechanism has ever been found. Similar devices were likely melted down for their metal long before anyone thought to preserve them as historical artifacts. This single surviving example, preserved purely by the accident of sinking to the bottom of the sea, suggests that the technological sophistication of the ancient Mediterranean world has been seriously underestimated. If a culture without electricity, precision machine tools, or even basic metal alloys beyond bronze could design and build a mechanical computer capable of modeling the solar system, what other lost inventions might be sitting at the bottom of the Mediterranean, or buried in some unexcavated workshop, waiting to upend our assumptions all over again? Modern engineers who have built working replicas of the device, using only tools and materials available in the ancient world, confirm that it could have been constructed with period-appropriate technology, meaning this was not a fluke or a forgery, but a deliberate, achievable feat of ancient engineering that simply happened to outlast its era. More than a century after its discovery, the Antikythera mechanism is still being studied, and still revealing new secrets. In 2021, a team at University College London used updated X-ray data to reconstruct the device's complete planetary display, proposing that the front face once modeled the movements of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all 5 planets visible to the naked eye, using gear ratios remarkably close to the actual orbital periods discovered by Babylonian astronomers centuries before Copernicus. If accurate, this would mean ancient Greek engineers built a working model of planetary motion more than 1,500 years before the Renaissance reignited interest in mechanical astronomy. The original device, heavily corroded and broken into 82 separate fragments, remains on display at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, still missing pieces that may never be recovered. Researchers continue to dive the wreck site periodically, hoping to find additional fragments, or, perhaps, an inscription that finally identifies who built it. Until then, the Antikythera mechanism stands as a singular reminder that history is not a straight line of steady technological progress. Sometimes, brilliance appears far ahead of its time, only to be lost for 2,000 years, rediscovered by accident, in a shipwreck, by sponge divers who had no idea they had just found the most sophisticated machine the ancient world ever built.